There we go. Okay, so what you're seeing is one of my students at Delaware County Community College's assignment for a second grade classroom. And when we do this assignment, students must use alternative seating, and they must be able to, okay, I don't know why it's not going though. Come on. Oh, there it goes. Okay. And they must be able to have a classroom environment that fosters small group instead of large group instruction, and that uses hands-on materials and limited technology. And so this student did such a fabulous job on this assignment that I asked her if I could share it, and she graciously said I could. And so the slides will loop, but in a minute you're getting ready to see all of the materials that she selected for each of the areas in that second grade classroom. They're also aligned with all the second grade standards in Pennsylvania. And I asked them to share the dispositions of learning that children would experience in those areas. So this course is built on the responsive classroom, which is my favorite classroom management system. It has no extrinsic rewards, has active learning, has students making academic choice. I love the responsive classroom. And it teaches students, it's a very democratic classroom management system that students really thrive in. So when I was teaching kindergarten, I used a responsive classroom, and it has truly been. So this is her language and literacy area. And then here's how the materials are developmentally appropriate, those dispositions, and then the standards. So I've only got it going every 5 seconds, but it will loop for a little bit as we move through. And then Whitney's with us, and Whitney Woodward's our presenter tonight, but we're just doing this in the interim. And if Whitney has warming up, and if Whitney has any time at the end, then we will certainly go back to this PowerPoint after questions. But I wanted to make sure we got it in, because it is an amazing assignment. And so her field experience is in this second grade classroom, and they have already incorporated her cooperating teacher is amazing, and they've already incorporated many of these areas and some of these suggested materials, and they're working through how they can do more, because they're in a traditional school where, you know, the administration is extremely pressured to get those third grade test scores. And so it's an alternative way to accomplish the same goals and to meet the state standards. And you'll notice that there is limited technology. I am not a fan of technology in the primary grades. And so they had to stretch a little bit. Karen, if you have any questions, you are welcome to ask them. As soon as we start the presentation, I'll put up the chat. So, and Whitney, as folks have questions, I'll wait till we have a few, and then I may interrupt you and say, we have a few questions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's kind of how I do it.
I'm mercifully out of a Zoom habit, so it's nice to feel like I'm getting my sea legs back under me in a sense with Zoom.
And so this is their daily routine, where they had to do integrated blocks of academics instead of siloed blocks of just math, then just language arts, then just science, right? So, and this is her classroom with the alternative seating, which you can see around the room.
And now how many children are in there?
There's 25. Yeah, 25.
It's always such a treat to get to see other classrooms and other schools.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be able to have a cooperating teacher that is so willing to try things out,
Mhm.
which is what I really appreciate about the
Absolutely.
whole thing. So part of the responsive classroom is to ensure that students have agency and that they feel a sense of belonging, which is why morning meeting is not just a typical thing that you might do to greet students in the morning. It is, they share, they do energizers, they learn about each other. It's a lovely, classroom management system. I think one of the big things that the responsive classroom teaches us is that, all of the teacher-made rules about, and there's still certainly some of those in there, but when you make rules in the classroom for the classroom, students are a part of that process. And the teacher says, what are your hopes and dreams for the year? And what did you like about last year? And what would you like to change? And so it's just this wonderful process. So students say, here's what my hopes and dreams are for the year. Here's what would make me feel safe and comfortable in this classroom. And the teacher writes everything down, and then they group them together. And then she helps to facilitate, and this takes a week, the first week of school. She helps to facilitate their thought processes in combining, finding similarities, and consolidating some of those rules so there's only maybe 3 or 4 for the whole year. And then students are responsible for reminding their peers. And if there's ever an issue, we say, what's the rule for that? And how could we do better next time, right? So it's all it's not punitive at all. It's all a very critical thinking, problem solving, solution-based classroom management system. And the other thing I really enjoy about the responsive classroom is the children's greeting each other in the morning, actively participating in small group activities throughout the day that are academically focused, but also active and hands-on. So people are joining us right now. You're viewing an assignment in an alternative design classroom for second graders. And this is from a student from Delaware County Community College at Springton Manor Elementary School in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. And she was gracious enough to let me share her presentation. And I'll send this when we upload the YouTube video, of course, be on the video because we're already recording. But I'll also share the PowerPoint with you so that you have a little bit more time to see what is happening in it. But she has aligned her classroom environment with the second grade standards in Pennsylvania and ensure that they have a great deal of active learning materials. Wait a few more minutes for more friends to join us, and then I'll do an introduction about IPA and welcome everyone. We also have a strong focus in this course on ensuring that we use provocations from Reggio Emilia. Welcome. We're glad you're here. We're just doing a sort of a warm-up activity. Which is the second grade classroom at Springton Manor Elementary School in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. On a second grade classroom floor plan that promotes small group instruction and active learning with hands-on materials and limited technology. Whitney is with us. She's our presenter today, and we'll get started in just a minute. This is her second grade daily routine. Okie dokie. I'm going to stop this share and I'll make sure I include this. And so I'd like to welcome you to the town hall. This is our third one, I think. Could be our fourth one that we're doing.
It's time anymore.
I think it's like twice a year we try to do it. Can you see the screen, Whitney?
Yes, I can see you, and I see some other folks that are here at 6:30 on a Tuesday. It's so nice to see everybody.
So glad you're here. And so today's presentation is, yes, we can still play in the primary grade classroom. And I'm Deb Lawrence, president of IPA-USA. And with me is our presenter, Whitney Woodward, who is our fourth grade teacher. And also, we are so excited, our treasurer. And so for those of you who may not know what IPA-USA is, we are the USA affiliate of the International Play Association, which is a world organization. And I sit on the World Council, which is comprised of 23 countries. And on our board, we have 16, the USA board has 16 very passionate people about play who are hard workers. And so just to give you an idea, and you can find all this on our website at IPAUSA.org, but our purpose is to protect, preserve, and promote the child's right to play. And that is from birth all the way through the age of 18. If you are not a member of IPA, you still have access to a great number of resources on our website. We have porch play chats, which are 25 to 35-minute conversations with people who are just as passionate about play as we are. We have over 100 of those that are free to you. You can go to our IPA website and underneath advocacy, go to porch play chats, and you'll see 3 years. We have 2019, 2020, 2021, and of course, 2022. And over the next 3 months, we're doing another 15 porch play chats that will be recorded. And then the next series are recorded in July. But we do a great deal with advocating for play. On our website, there's this wonderful research on the value of play. There's play during COVID. There's the UNCRC, which is the child's right to play through the United Nations. We have a Play Talk blog. We have a play policy brief if you need to convince anybody about why play is important. We have a play quiz for families that is free to you, that families can take. We have town halls, of course, and we have pre-recorded town halls that have happened in the past that you're welcome. One is on technology in the classroom and how we should really limit it, and that's in May of 2021. We have lots of things on playground safety and inclusive playground resources, and of course, lots of recess advocacy. And then if you're a member of IPA-USA, we have an e-journal that comes out. The next one is due out in May. We do a quarterly newsletter that keeps you up to date on what's happening. We do mini grants. If you are a member of IPA-USA, your program is eligible for up to a $300 mini grant. We have 6 additional policy briefs. Our state play advocates have sort of been on hold during COVID, so hopefully we're going to be able to get them back moving. Of course, we have an upcoming conference in San Antonio where you would get a discount to the San Antonio conference, and the World Conference is in Glasgow, Scotland in 2023. And of course, we have opportunities to lead by becoming a board member. And of course, IPA World does the Playwrights Journal. So lots of benefits to being a member, lots of things that you can sort of baby step your way into to see if it's something that works for you. And so the mini grants, this is on the website, so I'm going to quickly go through so we can get to Whitney, but these mini grants are there to promote playful activities. It could be a play day, it could be a play workshop, it could be a parent play day, it could be an advocacy trip. So many different avenues for you to be able to have a mini grant opportunity. And then this is, if you're interested in doing a porch play chat, which I hope people will be, and you're about a topic on play that you're really passionate about, you can email me here at IPA-USA 2019 user at Gmail, and in your subject line put porch play chat, and I'll reach out to you for our July tapings. And then last October, we released the speaker series, which was extremely popular. And so the presentations were so amazing, and they were really global because we had someone from India present, that was Adishna. We had Mark Armitage present from Australia. And then we had wonderful, amazing presenters here in the United States. And so we are re-releasing, it's called the Right Now Resolution of that October speaker series. And again, you can go to our website and under events, the registration will be very soon. I didn't want to confuse people with the town hall. And then make your plans to come to us in San Antonio, October 6th through 9th. So this October, and the call for presentations is live on our website under events and the 2022 conference. And if you're interested in being a sponsor, you can also submit a sponsor application on the website. So that's all for me. And Whitney, it is your turn.
All right. Well, thanks, Deb. So my name is Whitney Woodward, and I'm going to pull this up, make sure you can see everything. So I'm very excited to get to talk to y'all tonight. I'm reporting live from my kitchen in Atlanta, Georgia. And I taught all day today. So if I seem like a tired teacher, I will try not to, but that is actually exactly what I am. So I'm super excited to tell you about things that are going on at my school and in my classroom. But before that, I'll just give you a little bit about my play journey. So I first started teaching in a large public school system here in Georgia, where I was for 8 years teaching and then in administration. And then I had children during that time, which of course, when you have your own children, that very much shapes how you view play. When you see them, you see it firsthand from starting in infancy, children learning through play. And then I became the executive director of a preschool and a daycare. And I did that for 6 years. And when I got hired, we were a play-based preschool. And I knew what that meant, but I could not articulate what it meant. So that kind of led me to my first IPA conference, which was really life-changing in so many ways, because at IPA, that's where I met my people. I met my play people, and I was able to articulate what did it mean to be a play-based school. And now I'm back in the classroom. I've in fourth grade, which has been wonderful. I actually work at the school where my 3 children are. And it's been a really powerful experience to view play in this age group, where we used to not really think about play in elementary school in the same way, and how powerful it is. When I taught at a large school district, this was during a time when recess was not required because it took away academic time. So we were discouraged from having recess. My third graders, and this is in 2004, we had recess outside twice a week, and I kind of had to fight for it. And we go outside, and the children struggled because their play muscles had kind of atrophied a bit. So that really showed me, and I was, in my 20s, I was in my early 20s, but it was one of those like, oh, why don't these children know how to play? It's like, this is a muscle that needs to be exercised. So starting from there and to where I am now, I feel like, every year that I'm in a school, every year that I'm around children, every year period, I learn more about the power of play and how it can be used in so many different ways. So that just tells you a little bit about my perspective and where I'm coming from. So moving on from there, and welcome to those who just came. There we go. So a little bit more, as Deb said, about what IPA is. It is a wonderful resource, and I've got a slide at the end that has more websites that hopefully you'll be able to utilize. If you wouldn't mind, I'd love if folks could put in the chat what you do for a living, what your interest in play is, just so we kind of know who each other are. If you're a teacher, solidarity, Tuesday after the time change, I am with you. It was a long Tuesday today with our students, but we got through it. And if you are visiting from a different part of the play world, playground design, if you're a school administrator, if you are a parent or grandparent, or if you're just play curious, whatever, we're glad you're here. And hopefully our conversation today can be a little bit of a workshop. I gave a similar talk to what we're about to talk with today to teachers at my school. And one thing that I said then, and that I'll absolutely say every day, is one of the greatest things about working in education is when we all share, we all get better. So I really believe that if you've got a great idea, sharing it with other people just benefits all of us, and most importantly, benefits the children. So I hope at the kind of end of this presentation, if you've got something great going on in your classroom or your school, that you'll share it, so that way we can all come away with some great ideas together from this evening. Also,
and Whitney, I'm
yeah.
going to encourage them if they have questions. So we already have Tanya from Nova Scotia.
Hey, Tanya.
And we have Karen from Maine, who's working in a play-based inclusive preschool. Yay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that's wonderful. And so if you have questions as Whitney is going through, I'm monitoring the chat. And so just let me know if you have a question. And then I told Whitney I might interrupt her as we go through. So feel free to ask questions as we move. Okay, Whitney, back to you.
Thanks, Deb. Love you, Deb.
Love you too.
So one of the big pieces is a lot of this, if you've been doing play research for a long time, is going to be things that you hold in your heart that you already know. But, part of the things when we're in education, why are we talking about play, especially as we get towards older grades, where play is one of those things we don't talk about quite as much. But if we go back to what we all studied in teacher training, if we go back to Freud and Erikson with psychodynamic terms, play helps children in so many ways, especially if you look at the Freud, you take your own opinions about Freud, but in dealing with anxiety, fears, and traumas, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but childhood is hard, and especially childhood through a pandemic. So if we're looking at ways to help children through this time, play is such a critical tool. But also, when we talk about how play helps children make sense of the world around them, I feel like that's something we always go back to. Play helps children make sense of the world around them. The world doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes, especially starting in 2020. So play is such a great way for them to make sense of it. But then also when we talk about, in basic terms of cognition, some of the big hitters from your grad school studies, here we go, friends, Piaget, Bruner, Vygotsky, here, they all support play with children in terms of helping them with cognition. Also, when we think about what is play, these are some of my sweet students. When we look about what play is, it's, it helps in so many different ways: mental, physical, social well-being. And the best part is when we talk about free play, and we'll talk a little bit more about free play and guided play and purposeful play, but it's fun. It should be fun. One thing though, that I want to take a look, especially at the picture of my girls playing on the left, it allows room for self-regulation. So the picture you're looking at, we do a large Christmas pageant, and these sweet children had been waiting silently to do their part in the Christmas pageant. I think we were on like hour 83. I don't know. It was a very long time. And because these children had the opportunity to play, they were able to self-regulate, they were able to wait, they were able to do what they needed to do because they had room to play, and because they are great players and they know how to do it. So this is game, and I'm blanking on, of course, what it's called, with the fingers, and you do two and then you switch it back and forth. I'm sure you've all seen this game. I can't remember the name. I'm sure if I asked one of my children right now, they'd be like, "Mom, how do you not know this game?" But it's a great one. It's fun. It doesn't serve a purpose. You play it, someone wins, then you play it again and again and again. But they need it, because otherwise, if they can't play, what else would they be doing? They wouldn't have a space to self-regulate. But also when we think about what play is, I did a couple porch chats earlier when we were all in the thick of it. But one of IPA World's big focuses that they'd had at the, and Deb, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was at the Calgary IPA conference. They talked so much about how play helped children in times of crisis.
Yeah.
And again, when we go back, am I remembering that right? That was one of the big themes, if not the big theme. But when we have crisis, play allows them to have that sense of normalcy. It's been a really abnormal couple years. So at our school, we went back fully 5 days a week in person in fall 2020. We're very lucky. I'm at a school with lots of resources. We had, masks were required. We were had PCR testing weekly. And if, tested positive, then we were able to manage virtually, which, I do hope those days are behind us, because it was incredibly challenging. But when the children came out, they all had masks on. It was one of the first days in person, and everyone had to stay 6 feet apart. This was right at the beginning when there were these big feelings that the children certainly could put a name on, the adults couldn't put a name on it either. And we walked out onto a big field for recess, and no one had brought anything because we didn't really know what we could do. And one of my fourth graders picked up a pine cone. Another fourth grader picked up a stick. I'm not even joking. And right away, they figured out how to play. They had a pickup game of baseball on a field because they needed that sense of normalcy. Everything else in the world was really weird, but playing felt normal, and that allowed them to connect with each other and have and give them what they needed. So when we talk about what is not play, and again, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but it was when I first started really looking at play and reading about play, researching play, I found it fascinating that the opposite of play is depression, but doesn't that make the most sense? The first thought, what's the opposite of play? Oh, it must be work. No, the opposite of play is depression. And again, when we look at anxiety in children, when we look at higher suicide rates for children, this is exactly what they need. They need play. They need play to have a balanced life. It's not a luxury. It's absolutely mandatory for them to have it. And then also, these cuties in the background, the one all the way on the right is one of mine, but these are all children at my school. But when we talk about what free play is, true free play, which is harder to find in a school, all these pieces that allow children to have choice. When I used to teach classes to parents at the preschool and daycare that I was at, we talked a lot about how children need choice. And that's why when you have a baby, the baby has choice over what goes in and what goes out, right? Those are the big things. Why feeding babies is hard and why potty training is a nightmare, because these are the two things that the child has got full choice on, and they don't want to give up that choice. But when we allow children to have choice through free play, we're giving them that outlet. So especially again, not to beat a dead horse, but when we talk about COVID and how many choices have been taken away from children, if we give them free play, we're allowing them to have these opportunities for choice that otherwise have been very limited for them for the last 2 years. But I love more than anything that there's no purpose or outcome to free play. And it doesn't have to. When we talk a lot to, for my educator friends out there, when we talk a lot about project-based learning and how it's all about the process, free play teaches children to value the process because it's not outcome-based. So this is helping children get to that level of project-based learning by having this free play. Also, when we're talking about adversity versus positive adversity, this is again my youngest child, Wes. He is if IPA had a mascot, he would put in his resume for it for sure because he's a champion player. But when we talk about adversity versus positive adversity, especially as we talk about schools, adversity is something that we try to avoid. It's misfortune. That's not something that we want children to have to go through. But why are we not allowing them more opportunities for positive adversity? Because this is what we want. We want them to experience these challenges. A lot of play and innovation, and we'll talk more about this in just a minute too, but play and innovation often share a same heart because we want children to experience this positive adversity and this challenge to see how they rise above it, to see how they respond to it. Because again, this is in a sense what we're trying to help them as they discover who they are, is giving them this opportunities for positive adversity. They like the challenge. They like feeling competent. They like seeing what they're capable of. I remember I had a job interview one time to be an instructional coach. And the question I was asked was, well, what do you think the big difference between coaching adults and children are? And I thought about it because I've done physical coaching for adults and children before too. I'm a Girls on the Run coach. Anybody else out there is a Girls on the Run coach, but I also did athletic training for adults for a long time. I was like, well, what is the big difference? And then it hit me. I'm like, adults are pretty sure they know what they're capable of. So if you ask them to do something, they say, oh no, I can't do that. Oh no, I don't run. I can't run. I can't do that. And children don't know what they're capable of. They're like, oh, okay, I'll try it. I don't know. I've never done it yet. So having that challenge, that positive adversity lets them push and see what are they capable of. If you want to call it their, zone of proximal development, you can, but really looking at these different pieces and ways for children to see what they're capable of, they have to have a challenge. That way they can rise to it. So here is Wes in his Baby Yoda hat. And we decided to go ice skating. And as you can hear from my voice, we definitely live in the South. So going ice skating is not something he was comfortable with or familiar with. So tried it once. He said, oh, I don't like it. It's like, well, let's go around one more time and try. So he was challenged by it. And eventually, I mean, after 30 minutes was able to make his way around. It's a positive adversity. Same thing with riding a bike. Same thing with anything worthwhile in life. It takes a little bit of work to get to the good stuff. And I love opportunities like that where you get to witness it, whether it's your own children, whether it's your students, or whether it's yourself, getting to have that challenge and then rise above it. And if you're not perfect at it, that's fine, but you've learned something. So when we think about positive adversity in play, just a couple pieces that allow children to have these three golden capacities: the ability to problem solve, resilience, again, back to those self-regulatory skills. And then one piece that I really liked is to have working relationships, excuse me, with people who have skills that they don't have.
Whitney, can I tell a story while you're coughing about,
yes.
I call it the Taco Bell syndrome.
Uh-huh.
So, and it could be any fast food. My experience was just at Taco Bell. So I knew, and this was back in the 90s, and it's still present. I still get this sort of reaction a lot in classrooms. And it's because of the lack of choice in academics and being told what to do, how to do it, when to finish, and when to move on. So I was taking my children to the zoo, and you know, you get your three kids in the car, and the first thing after you've driven for 15 minutes is I'm hungry, right? Or I have to go to the bathroom. It doesn't matter how old they are. And so I said, well, you know, here's a Taco Bell up here, so we'll just pull in. It'll be cheaper than feeding you at the zoo anyway. We'll have lunch, and then we'll head on to the zoo. And so we did that, and we were there. This is how old I am. We were there at 11, and that's when Taco Bell opened. They opened at 11, and they closed at 10. That's how old I am. And so we were waiting at the door, and it was summertime. And so there were these precious little 15-year-olds in the store, no adult anywhere around. And I went up to the counter, and I asked the kids what they wanted, and I got them their lunch, and I took them over to a table, and they sat down and they started eating. And I went back to get mine. So it's important to know I'm always on a diet. And so I wanted a taco salad without the shell. Okay. So they looked at me, and this precious little one said, I'm so sorry, ma'am. We can't do that. And I said, of course you can. Just think about it. And so he started getting this like OMG look on his face. And he sort of backed away from the register, and he went over to a friend, and he's talking to the friend and like pointing over his shoulder at me. This friend comes over and he says, I'm so sorry, ma'am. We can't do that. And I said, sure you can. Just think about it. So now they're starting to, you know, get nervous. So they go to the line where everybody's making all the food. Now there's more people behind me, and that was when they were timed at how quickly they were serving customers. And so they go over and they're talking on the line, and they're all huddling, and they're looking over their shoulders, they're pointing at me, and I'm smiling. And it was 5 minutes of them huddling when one of the girls said, I know, we could put it in a Nachos Bel Grande container. And they're like, yeah, we could put it in a Nachos Bel Grande container. The issue was not what I was wanting to order, but what to put it in. And it took them that long because we have programmed them to do what they're told to do and not to think, and I call it outside the box, because that's really the situation. When I left that Taco Bell and was driving to the zoo with my kids, I said, oh my God, I'm contributing to this problem with preschoolers, because I was a director for 13 and a half years. The following Monday, we went in and said, we're not doing what we need to be doing. And that's where my aha started. Mm-hmm. And I've been a play advocate ever since. Because I have students, in my college classrooms. Well, how many pages? Well, and that's because that's the way they were programmed, right? In their schools. And so we have to get away from that. We have to get kids to be critical thinkers and problem solvers. And that doesn't happen without play. So that's my story.
It doesn't, and that's perfect. Yes. I mean, they've got to be able to problem solve. But, and the third point with this also is that working relationship with people who have skills that they don't comes from also building that sense of empathy and humility where, if we're playing baseball, I hear this all the time, like, oh, I'm not a great catcher, but you're a great catcher. So how about you do this? And how about you do this role and I'll do this? So learning ways to really combine our skills together. If you want to look at it in business terms, to maximize the effect or maximize the effort, but also a way to for people to learn to rely on each other, that we all can't do it ourselves, that we do have to work together and as a community. And whether it's to get to serve a customer what they want, or or to work towards solving another problem. These are all pieces that absolutely you have to have before you're an adult. And what better way to learn them than through play? I've got an example here too of for building resiliency. This picture on the left was one that my nephew created when we were visiting them this summer. I thought, oh, it's so great. And he was doing that when he was younger, and he still does it. It helps him find his calm, is finding order in his cars. So it allows us to have that space to step aside, organize your thoughts, organize your Hot Wheels, and step down emotionally. So the opposite of resilience can often be anxiety. Again, going back to earlier with the rise in childhood anxiety, how can we find ways for children to find coping strategies with that? We can increase the resilience by, again, just like Deb was just talking about, the problem solving skills, creativity, emotional awareness, positive coping strategies, opportunities for growth. I'm going to just show you a link. And I hope that if you haven't seen Stuart Brown's TED Talk, I definitely recommend it. It's he talks about how play is more than just fun, and he talks about it with animals and people. So the link is here. I hope if it's like a 25-minute blurb, but if you have time to watch it and haven't watched it yet, I definitely recommend it. Also, if you're trying to convince someone at your school about the importance of play, this is a great little, really a thank you for coming to my TED Talk about how play is so critical. But also a big part of, one of our huge important parts with education right now is looking at innovation, and play and innovation do share the same beating heart. They're all about breaking rules. It's about finding new ways of thinking about things, standing on your head, thinking about things in a different way. So if you're looking at ways to bring innovation into your classroom, try starting with play. It's problem solving. It creates challenges, and oftentimes the children do create their own challenges. But again, if you are looking for ways to incorporate play and you already have an innovation program, look at ways to marry the two of them, and you might have a lot of success. So when we allow play into the classroom, we clear the way for innovation. Children are natural players, they're natural innovators, but we've got to make the space for them. I have a play break for everybody, but I will not force you to do it. Although if you want to, we can. But my Zoom play break, but there's just a few of us now, so I'll keep us moving forward to make sure everybody stays where they need to be, so that way nobody is feeling the Tuesdays too much. But a great play break, if you need one for Zoom, is immediately the floor is lava. Now, nobody has lava-proof shoes. And to get the furthest object that you can while not falling in the lava. Does anyone feel like they can have lava? I see a lot of screens turn on, so I'm just going to assume you're all doing it. And if you tell me 35 feet, I will believe you. All right. A play break that I do when I am talking about play with other teachers is we often just have everybody stand in a circle, throw one balloon in, keep the balloon off the ground. After they've had it for 5 minutes, throw in a second balloon, throw in a third, throw in a 15th. And it's a great way for everybody to connect, to work as a team, and just to get playing. But one of the main reasons I'm sure many of you decided to sign on tonight is, get it. We know play is awesome. So now what? I work at a school. What do I do now? I'm going to tell you what we did at my school. So last year with COVID was really a big thing. And I went into the administrative offices and said, hey, can we do a day of play? And it was like improv. They just kept saying yes. One of my biggest takeaways, having been an administrator for many years and having worked at a school for many years, is if you want something, ask for it. The worst they're going to say is no. But if you don't ask, the answer is definitely no. So Day of Play 2021 was started. The parameters were this. We have 600 children. We could do it over 5 days. And it was, we were working around field day. So for our classes, they had field day in the morning and then this afternoon where, nothing academic was going to get done. So what could we do instead? So we decided to have a day of play, which combined with field day. And it was the most exhausting, fun, awesome week ever. And if we could do this in the height of COVID, pre-vaccines, anybody can do it. So I'll tell you a little bit about what Day of Play looked like at our school. And if you do have Day of Plays at your school, I hope you will share out some ideas because, the sky's the limit. So what we did is we had kind of two areas. We had more of a guided play set where classes would come through one at a time. And then we had other areas that I'll talk about in other slides called pickup play areas. So for this more guided play areas are smaller children. You can see in the picture with kind of more of a house cardboard structure. That's my friend Pia sitting in the middle with two friends. But we had children decorate cardboard boxes. We had bajillions of them. We because we're educators, so we're always looking for a good deal. These boxes had misprints on them, so we got them at a great deal. And then, as you can see from the picture all the way on the left, you can see the make-do screws, which if you've never used make-do screws, I highly recommend. Make-do makes some of my favorite cardboard equipment. That handsome young boy on the left is also my middle son, Knox. So, but they just were told, just build what you want to build. Some of them built a fort. You can see someone made a cardboard outfit. Let me see if this will play for us. I mean, they had a ball. They played with cardboard to their heart's content. Yeah, Tanya, I see your make-do stuff is awesome. Totally recommend. But again, the sky was the limit, and we kind of set the parameters of here's the equipment you can use. We did have the cardboard scissors, the electric cardboard scissors, which I love so much. I actually own a pair here in my house too, and they're so much fun. But once you kind of show the kids how certain tools work, let go. Absolutely let go. They know what to do. They can figure it out. They can also find ways to imagine the world in ways we never did. Of course, with all of these things, safety first. And once you've got safety taken care of, physical, social, emotional safety taken care of, let at it. As we know, free play is 90%, child directed. So get your hands off. Don't ruin the play.
Whitney, what kind of scissors?
I can't remember the name of them, but they're you click a button and it's got two little things and they go. I'll grab them for you. I'll send you a picture of them because they're great for Christmas. So also for some of the more pickup play activities that we did, I just asked our PE department, like, hey, can we just borrow a bunch of stuff and just put it outside? And they said, sure. So we had this big, beautiful field, and we kind of had a sign up sheet so people could rotate through. Again, we had to be one class at a time because of where we were in COVID. But they just took the materials. We had some, kind of PE, field hockey sticks, hula hoops, balls, whatever. I mean, just throw them out there and the kids know what to do. And then for the picture on the right, we got a bunch of tarps and yarn and twine so the kids can make forts. It was great. Again, like they know what to do. And then when it comes to cleanup later, I may or may not have bribed a 3rd grade class with popsicles to clean up all the yarn later. So it's easy. But these were just 2 of the pickup play ideas that we did. Another thing that we did was we left out a big box of yarn. That was it. That was the whole thing. Left out a big box of yarn, and they went bonkers. They yarned everything. If you've never read the book, Extra Yarn by, I know it's illustrated by Clausen, but I can't remember who, if it was Matt Barnett that wrote it. But the book Extra Yarn is just everything. They're running around with yarn, making literal connections, covering materials in it. And I feel terribly. I didn't get a picture at the end of the day. So this was at the beginning of the day. By the end of it, it looked like it had snowed yarn. And at the end of the day, many of the children were like, this is my favorite part of the day. Just running around with yarn and just wrapping it around everything. And the children, were safe with it. They didn't get clotheslined because they knew what they were looking for, because we were able to trust them when we talk with them about what we're doing. So for day of play, we had our purposeful play, and then some other pickup play ideas that we had. We just had a bunch of bubble machines going, and we got some buckets with with Dawn soap and water and the yarn and the 2 handles, and they blew bubbles. No directions, just blow some bubbles. We did a collective mural. We laid out a long roll of paper and different drawing materials so they could add to each other's drawing however they saw fit. Obviously, they had playground time. Just go play on the playground. Tarp and twine forts, which you saw, and then some nature scavenger hunts. We're very lucky. We got a lot of green space. So go for a walk, go play outside, go play on a walk. And if they needed a little bit more direction, it was just like a tic-tac-toe. Do you see a bird? Do you see a leaf that's this shape? Just go play, just go have fun. It was getting everything ready, and scheduling was a ton of work with many people doing it. Again, I'm so incredibly grateful for the administration I work with, as well as several amazing colleagues who are also play enthusiasts. But once you find your people at your school, the sky's the limit, or at least that's how it's been for me in my experience. But it all comes with asking. Nothing happens unless you ask. We also had a very large 5th grade mural that was an amazing piece. It was less play and more a collaborative art piece. But again, playing with different materials and breaking the rules, it's all part of keeping play active and sparking that play muscle in your children's brains. All right, let me find all right, here we go. So when it comes to the classroom though, so that was, so play day was a big one day, in our sense, 1 week activity.
And Whitney, while you're taking a drink, how long did each class get to play?
All day.
Every class got to play. One class got to play all day after field day in the afternoon.
Yep.
Wow, that's awesome.
It was so great. And then, for field day, we had big inflatable things. They had games with the sponges in the water, playing outside. I mean, they were wiped out at the end of the day. But that was a big, and then when we asked for feedback for teachers at the end of the day, say what went well, what could have gone better. The teachers were great, very, very candid, as we teachers tend to be, in terms of responding with, having active active play followed by quieter play in the classroom. We also had, big boxes with Connect Four and Uno and card games if they wanted to just play quietly in their classroom to have some downtime. Children can't be on all the time either, just like we can't be. So having the give and take with the play day gave them a lot of opportunities to try on different types of play and see what fit best for the children too. So there were a lot of great things that came out of that week, in addition to really igniting the enthusiasm in a lot of us on like, oh, we can do this, and we see the benefits, and it's fun, but it's also adding all these different pieces to our children, again, including that self-regulation piece, which is so necessary kind of when you're teaching through COVID, teaching children how to take care of themselves. So then when we look at play in a specific classroom, the school that I'm at has pretty traditional classrooms, large size windows, all that, but pretty traditional size. Also, did I mention my school is actually considered a pretty academically rigorous school? It places a lot of it's wholesome intensity is something that we talk about at our school a lot. The children are passionate learners. But I think you can be a passionate learner and a passionate player absolutely at the same time. I think they go hand in hand, because, again, learning and having that curiosity is the same way that that playfulness builds that same curiosity. You just want to experience the world around you. So when we do talk about play in the classroom, you don't have to have a fancy room at all. The materials, the equipment you have, it's way more important than your actual room's features. And again, I talked about it earlier, stay out of their way when they're playing. What's that saying, Deb, where why would you ruin a child playing by interfering? I'm butchering that, but y'all know what I mean. But guided play can, of course, have more prompts. But then it leads to this, that sweet spot, the repetition, the surprise, the discovery. And this is one of my favorite Piaget quotes, where, that discovery piece is so important, for children to feel like they have ownership, to feel like they themselves are the discoverer. And it can't be that all the time. Full disclosure, today I'm teaching my class how to do a literary essay, like that old school 5-paragraph essay where you have your evidence, you have your theme, you have your thesis, things like that are I don't know if you can teach them through imaginative play. I'm sure someone has thought of it somewhere, but for me, that lesson did not lend itself well to imaginative play. But we did small group work and all that good stuff. But when, finding ways to have playful opportunities in your classroom, they're there. But like all good lessons, it takes planning and thought and reflection to find best ways to put it in. So ways that I have brought playfulness into our classroom. So again, because of COVID, that it used to be that the children would go to a common space in the morning after carpool, so we would have a little bit of planning time, and then they would all come in the room more or less at the same time. But with COVID, they had to come directly to the room. So there was a 45-minute window in the morning for drop off between 7:30 and 8:15. And some children would get there at 7:30 and some children wouldn't arrive at school till 8:15. So we had this weird 45-minute block that we didn't know what to do with, right? So we're thinking about it. And we're like, well, why don't we turn this into a time for play? We'll start off with, Tinker Thursdays, where we're playing in the room. So the first thing we did was we drew a bunch of circles on a sheet of paper, kind of, old school design thinking, what can this picture become, or what can this circle become? And is it the outline of a ladybug? Is it an eyeball? Is it a smiley face? And so they were kind of trying to think about these circles in different ways. And then another day we took calculators and took them apart. Just broke them and took them. There were a box of old calculators somebody was trying to throw away. So we took them and played with them and saw the different parts, and then made the calculators into different things. One of the girls in our class put pipe cleaner ears on it and called it, she renamed it our Math Scott. Get it? Math Scott. I know, it's adorable. But because they were able to play with it and have fun with it, but also, yes, they're seeing how circuitry works. And then we gave them a bunch of materials one day, and that's what this picture is of the right. We do a lot of with math. We have a Math Scott, which is Timmy the Worm, and Timmy the Worm is often discussed when we talk about math problems. And so we said, build Timmy a house. Build Timmy a house. Just play around with it. We've got, here are materials. Build Timmy a house. And so this is what one of our children made, and I hope you can hear it.
So for Tuesday Thursday, we had to make a house for our math mascot, Timmy the Worm. So here's my house. So first thing is, here is Timmy. He's a worm. And then here's the doorstep. The thing was that this is for the winter. So the red represents kind of fire, keeping him warm. And then the white represents ice, trying to not make the fire too hot. And then also Timmy likes to garden. So the green up here, like a vine, kind of represents plants. And then the purple represents like flowers. And so in the back, I see a quilt to keep him warm during the winter and for decoration. So that's fun. And also there's some stands here to keep this elevated up. And this is the house. Hope you enjoyed that.
And we did enjoy. But if you want to break it down into academic components that were embedded in play, engineering, architecture, planning habitat, sure, you can embed all of that. But what she saw it as is we're building a house for Timmy. But we do see, if we're really looking at it from a purposeful play perspective, yes, there's a lot of purpose in what she has done here. But she had fun. She had fun with it, and she played at school and got her connecting with her classmates also in other ways, because they wanted to share their different habitats together. And this is just one of the ways too, during that weird 45 minutes in the morning where it's like, all right, what are we going to do? And so this is something that we were able to do together, and then it built on from there.
So for Tuesday Thursday, we had
one time's enough. So then this is more of what's been going on with our crew. This is welcome to my classroom. Please ignore the fact it often looks like a bomb went off on it. We try to keep it clean, but we don't do a good job. But we've got dominoes that some of them were building into Rube Goldberg's. Some of the children were building just to build, seeing how things work together. For a lot of the children too, with that morning time, having a moment just to settle in the morning and get comfortable and get their feet under them and get ready for the day. That's been the biggest benefit for us with some of them. But for a lot of them, this is how they tap into building, again, that seed bed for innovation, connection with each other. These two girls working together, they knocked that thing over about 16 times before they got what it needed to, before they got it to do what they wanted to do. But they were patient. They talked to each other. They learned from each time it fell, building the resilience, figuring out what went wrong, recalibrating, and building it again. And if that's not a life lesson for you, I don't know what is. But again, there's lots of different ways you can do this. I also, they don't have to match. You can see I've got some Dr. Drew's blocks mixed in with some of the more colorful dominoes in there. These are things I had in my house that I just brought in. You don't have to buy a lot for it. You can also, one thing that I'm still collecting right now are bottle caps, because Olga Jarrett, Dev, was telling me about how she gets bottle caps together and puts nails through them to turn them into cogs. If you got a friend that drinks a lot of beer or Topo Chico, just say, hey, I need your bottle caps. Just put a sticker on it to cover up the label if it is a beer, and then you're good to go. But there are, so many great inexpensive ways to have playful materials in your classroom. So one thing that we did that was really fun too was we read The Christmas Pig by Jk Rowling. It's a new book. If you haven't read it, it's a darling tale about a little boy, Jack, and he loses his best friend, stuffed pig, Pig, DP for short, and it goes into the land of the lost. And as he goes through the land of the lost, there are 3 different towns in it, and the towns, as you can see, are Disposable, Bother It's Gone, and City of the Mist. So we had the children in groups with the Post-its write down descriptors, because the great thing about this book is it's a new book. There's no movie, there's no cartoon, there are no action figures yet. Like, they've only heard this book, they've only seen it in their mind's eye. So we had them kind of visualize what each of these towns look like in their book. And then we had them build it. So on the left, you can see they built City of the Mist out of Play-Doh. I divided them up into 3 groups. In the middle group, they did Bother It's Gone out of Legos. And then here on the right, they did Disposable out of blocks. And I will let one of my students tell you about what he built over here.
So this is Disposable. It's the very first land in the book that we were reading called Christmas Pig. So here we have Disposable, and right here is the entrance with the wagon and the entrance to come in, the pathway. And you can either go to Sheriff Speck's office, which is kind of like the sheriff of the whole entire town, Sheriff Speck's office. And over here you have the main hotel, which is a hotel for all of the things that come through here. And this building is kind of like, how do you say, like extra, kind of extra. And then here we have one of our characters called Lunchy, which is a lunchbox, and we have our extra long cactus.
It was not in the book.
Another thing on top. So yeah, that's it. That's about it.
So, I mean, again, we can talk with the class about different literary elements, like let's talk about setting, let's talk about character, or we can have them play together, build these things, have organic conversations about it. So that way they have a better understanding about what they're reading and comprehending. And again, and it's fun. It gets them excited about the book. It gets them wanting to know more about it. It gets them talking with each other about literature because they're playing together. And these are 10-year-olds playing with Play-Doh, and they had a great time. They had a great time playing with Play-Doh. And the best part is too, when you've got kids this age and they open up the Play-Doh, they all smell it and go, oh, because it just takes you back to that sensory place of smelling Play-Doh. And I can't keep their hands off the Legos. I had to put them away after a while because I felt like I was, whether at my home or at work, I kept stepping on Legos. I'm like, all right, I got to put these away for a minute because my feet hurt too much. But these are things that we have out in the class a lot. And if they come in and need some time to decompress, self-regulate, not to overuse that term, these are materials that we have available for them so they can sit and create and play and talk with a friend while they're at school. I mean, it's a lot better than a worksheet.
Whitney,
yeah.
I want to go back to the beauty of giving them time to settle, right? When they come in, that 45 minutes I'm loving. I did like 20 minutes in kindergarten where they just came in, socialized with their friends, got their stuff put away, played a little bit, and then we went to morning meeting. But it was after the Pledge of Allegiance, after the lunch counts, after, it was that bonding time of just sort of going, whoo, I'm here. We're going to have fun today. And then the other piece, I mean, I can see 15 standards for 4th grade just with this very, very first activity. And I think that's where people might feel that they have to justify what they're doing when they put play in. But if we just think about looking at whatever grade level standards you have to do and then observing what children are doing, you're meeting an amazing array of them in math and science and STEM. and language and creativity, and oh my God. And so, you know, we really have to separate, we really have to recognize that playful interactions like this is the best integrated way for kids to learn.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness, just the things. These are beautiful. Thank you for
Oh.
sharing.
Oh, thank you. This is so fun to get to share. I mean, for those of us in classrooms, it's so rare that we get to invite anyone outside of our class into our classroom. So it's such a gift to get to share it. And it is fun. I mean, it really is fun because you see your children light up in a way they're never going to do with a worksheet. You know, I mean, this is it truly the hands-on piece and the engagement with their peers it's just awesome. One thing that we do also is we find ways to try and work across different classes. We just went to math optional, so this is giving me flashbacks to see everybody with their masks back on too. But we look for ways to play around with problems. In our school, we've got these drinking fountains and they tell us how many ounces, like the ones at the airport where you see how many ounces you've saved by using your own water bottle. So it's like, okay, we've got to share this out with the school. Like, how do we do this? Let's play around with different ideas. And they haven't quite landed on how they want to share that out yet. But let's try different things on. Let's build prototypes. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. Let's play around with it. But again, having that play piece as that seedbed for innovation, because they're good at trying something on. One thing that I had to cut down a couple slides because I didn't want to talk for forever, but talking about how play allows children, play really can't happen without children allowing themselves to be vulnerable with each other. And so, back to that idea of morning meetings and talking to each other and getting to know each other and building that trust. This playtime allows them to be vulnerable with each other and be risk takers. I mean, and this is the whole piece of what we're trying to get children to do, right? Is to have them take risks, whether it's, trying a different way to solve a math problem, trying to step over a bigger gap that they might not think that they can do, and then later on, as they become young adults, it takes a risk to apply to a college or to apply to a job or to ask somebody out on a date. I mean, these are those awesome risks that children can take when they talk together, they play together, and they allow for childhood vulnerability. So just kind of, it's a little bit tangential on this, but just something I feel very passionately about. Something also that we are loving doing is we make games. We have first grade buddies who we love. So we make games for our buddies because we understand how important it is to play. And so we want our students to share that. So they made board games for their buddies because our buddies need some help with, their Orton Gillingham rules. They need some help with phonics. So our class figured out ways to make it fun to play with them. I'm seeing Tammy asking if we do playtime instead of morning meeting or in addition to that. Great question. If we do have our super playful mornings, that's kind of a bigger activity. Like if we got the blocks and Legos out, then we still do have, I call it kind of the abridged morning meeting where, it's more of a, one quick sentence. I feel this way because so that way we're all able to share together collectively, but it's pretty quick. Just, they've had time to connect with each other, which I think, we can all agree is one of the most important parts of that morning meeting is that connection and feeling settled. And like you are exactly where you need to be. That's a big meditative piece that we do in our classroom is I have the children take deep breaths and just kind of have that as their mantra. I'm exactly where I need to be right now, to have them have that feeling. So if we do have a lot of playtime in the morning, then we do a quick morning meeting. So some of the ones for structured play, we have some children that like to play a bit more independently. So at the top, there's a boy in our class who, and we are very much on the same page as Deb. We don't do a lot of screen time because play so much more meaningful away from the screen. But if we put instructions or examples of things, I can push it out on Google Classroom. So, hey, we're going to be building origami, and then they start building things. And they learn, we have a few students in our class learned how to make the origami boxes. And then they're like, well, I wonder how small one I can make. So this is something that, kind of a play skill in a sense that they've learned, that now, origami's out, if they finish classwork, sometimes they can, it's like, oh, if you finish early, you can read, or you can do origami or these other things. So they're finding ways to have playful time when, again, all relating back to that self-regulation piece, when they might not know what else to do. It's like, well, I can fold a piece of paper into a square and make something out of it and play with it, because I've done some origami before. Another thing we do is animating. The children wrote these awesome personal narratives, just these, small moments in their life where they told a personal experience, and it's supposed to really dive deep into sensory language, painting a picture, you're setting all that. So they had to animate it with certain materials. We had some brads, we had cardboard, there were scraps, we had junk. So we said, we're going to animate it with what we've got. So you can see, and this first one on the left that I'm going to show you is one where a little boy's story was, he had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And then after he picked this topic, he was kind of embarrassed about it. But he was trying to, there was a sheet hanging over a bunk bed. And so he was trying to peek out, and he thought he saw something in the dark, and then realized it was just a shadow, and was able to get up and do what he needed to do. But by playing around with it and adding this other layer, he was able to express himself so well, and just so he can hear it in his own words.
This is my cardboard moving piece that shows me peeking out from behind the curtain.
Great.
Yeah, so it's just like goes, and it uses a mechanism that pushes it forward.
I mean, just think of the stem. Oh my goodness.
Uh-huh.
The lever on the top right here.
And we left a couple examples up by the board, but we really gave them free rein on what to do. We kind of had to, have a moving piece, but and then you can look at the example on the right too. She used a very different moving mechanism. So they were really played around with it. And we had a couple students who built one entirely and were like, I'm not happy with this turnout. So they made a second new one. And of course that was more than fine.
And Mom and Dad, this is a Tinker Thursday thing we made, and it goes along with my personal narrative. This is my hand, and it's holding the sand dollar, and it moves. The sand dollar moves.
Oh my goodness. Just think of the problem solving and creativity.
Yeah.
And
they were amazing.
My hand is kind of big on this. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it is kind of the size of my hand, so yeah. It's not very realistic, but it works. So,
She did a great job. She was.
This is my card.
All right. So one thing that we love to do in our classroom, BAF, otherwise, and I don't say this with my students, but in my mind, I'm always like, it's a big ass sport. But the BAF is something super fun. So one of our standards is building reading stamina, getting the children to read longer. Sitting quietly at your desk reading is not a natural position for children to have. So we will have them, not every day, but usually like once a month or so, we build a big fort in the classroom. So these are 3 pictures of it. Everybody brings in a sheet, and when they come in, they start putting twine up and building these BAFs, or just, we call them big forts in the classroom. Don't worry, I wouldn't use profanity in our classroom. But you can see what they do, and then they hop under there, and they play and build these amazing forts. We've had many different versions of these forts. And then we take our yoga mats, so we have a soft place to huddle in. Some of them like reading next to somebody, some of them don't. And they are building their reading stamina and having a wonderful time. So if you have never built a huge fort in your classroom, I cannot recommend it highly enough. And if you have specials that come into your classroom, ask the specials teachers if they are okay leaving the fort up, because a lot of times you'd be surprised by people that are totally good with it. So yeah, big forts. I'm a big forter. So I definitely recommend it. And then we've got some more websites, IPA World, of course, but these are some ones that I did some great, found some great information on, but that's kind of the bulk of it. I hope I left enough time for us all to chat together, but
yes, oh, absolutely. So I know there was a question early on from someone who's working with children with disabilities. And she said she was a little stuck about struggling a bit, so I need more information. She's working in a play-based inclusive preschool. So do you want to give us a little bit more information, Karen, about what you're struggling with so that we could maybe brainstorm some things with you?
Sure. Hi. I think it's the inclusive part. I have a lot of other adults in the room with us, and they're not always on the same page as I am about play. So I need to come up with a way to convince the special ed piece that it will work for the kids who have disabilities. Yes, they may need more guidance in certain areas, but I don't want to take I don't want to take their free play away.
Right.
So
Well,
I just need.
Yeah. So and how often do you have interventionists coming in? Are they in and out all day long?
Well, the ed techs and the special ed coordinator are in there all day long.
Okay. And how many children?
I sit in my room for 3.5 hours, and I have 12 kids in the classroom.
And the age group? How old are they?
3 to 5.
Oh my goodness, that's where they really need to play. So is there a way that you can meet their IEPs because they have their IEP plans, right? So is there a way that you can look at each child's IEP and say, here's a playful activity that would allow them to practice the skills that they need for their IEP? And my guess is with 3 to 5-year-olds, they're not all different, right? So some of them may be OT, and some of them may be PT, and some of them may be language based. Yes. And so could you just say on Mondays and Wednesdays, this is how I'd like us to do interventions, and you can coach a child, work with the child, but here's what we're going to be doing. And then I'd like to see how this works and getting them to meet those IEP goals and just see what happens. Is that possible? Maybe even 1 day a week to start and then go to 2.
Yeah, it may be possible. It's more of convincing the special ed coordinator the power of play, I guess, in my opinion. I mean, I think that play at that age is a must.
It's a must, yes. And it really helps them. Yeah.
Dude, is there how there are lots of different types of preschools, like it's a Reggio preschool, it's a Montessori preschool. Does yours have any type of what's your curriculum base in your preschool? Because I'm just surprised that there would be a preschool at that age that doesn't have curriculum directly tied into play, just because that is developmentally what they need. So I'm just curious if you can kind of tie that back into your school's mission.
Well, we're a play-based. This is the first year that we're working on being a play-based preschool. We're a private.
Congratulations.
We're a private preschool.
Uh-huh.
Owned nonprofit organization. So it's all a work in progress because we're just changing. But I think I like to do all of these play activities, and then some other folks say, well, these kids need such and such and such, and I'm like, well, there's got to be a happy medium, because you can't take the play away from the kids with disabilities just because you think that they can't learn from play.
Exactly. That's
You
exactly
know.
right. So I'm wanting to get you to our website because we have, so hold on just a second. I'm trying to get to, let me try this one and then get to IPA. So you're seeing all my open windows. I apologize. So Ross Thompson and Mike Huber are both. So you go to advocacy and you go to porch play chats. And I know we've got one for Ross here. They both work in an inclusive preschool. And so here's Ross, ways to say yes to big body play. But he's also got Mike Huber, what's the difference between autonomy and independence? And this is with children with disabilities. And so they have an amazing, how much is too much, right? So how much help that you're giving children is too much help for them? And are we impeding their ability to, scaffold themselves because we're being too directive? So there's all sorts of fabulous porch play chats that are really short that you could even show in the school. They're free to you. How to add more play and let go of control with Christy DeGraff. I mean, it just goes on and on. But those are folks who are, and that's only 2022. And if you go back to 2021, you'll have more from both Ross and Mike Huber that are really focused on playful learning in classrooms with children with disabilities. Here's how children use their bodies to explore. I want to go to Ross. Training wheels don't really teach you how to ride a bike. And so these are all little tidbits about working with children with disabilities that might, and I think it's good for all children, right? It's good for every child. But sometimes when we are struggling with someone who doesn't really believe in playful learning, sometimes we need to show them the Stuart Brown TED Talk that I show every one of my child development classes when we do a couple of weeks on why play is important. And so
and there's even a Stanford class on play and innovation. Like, it is college and grad school students being taught the importance of them as an adult to play, because that leads you to further understanding. So, it's not just for littles, but it's critical for littles.
So here are two by Mike Huber and October 4th, inclusive or included play in disabled children. And then this one, hold on. And then this one, nature doesn't get tired of being a child's playmate. They take children of all levels of ability out into fields. They have a huge campus that they're able to take children out to play. But I wanted to, that might be helpful in showing, for you to watch first and to get some tidbits. But, I would try to talk them into saying, I think I found a way to meet their IEP goals without it being so structured, because that seems to be where people, they feel like they are, they're required by law. It's a legal document, but there are ways to do it in a more playful way than maybe what they're doing. And so those porch play chats can really maybe help you.
Thank you so much.
I hope that helps. Keep us posted. You can email us.
And good luck. You're doing great work. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Whitney? Because if you don't, I'm going to take you back to that PowerPoint, which is those of you who came in a little later, probably a time zone issue or a work issue, know that this is being recorded and will be uploaded to the IPA-USA website and the YouTube channel. And I will send you the link, but give me like 48 hours because it takes a long time to get it buffered where I can start doing something with it. And in the beginning of our time together, I'm just looking for questions. If you have questions for Whitney, now's the time to put them in the chat. In the very beginning at like 6:15, we started early, like I mentioned to you on the email I sent to you, with a second grade classroom at Springton Manor Elementary in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, where one of my students is doing her field experience in a second grade classroom. And so I will include that PowerPoint. It uses alternative seating, not desks in a row. It has lots of active learning materials in a second grade classroom. The room is arranged totally differently. And so I will send you that. That whole assignment that students do is based on the responsive classroom, but it's also, they must determine what early learning standards will be met at second grade in Pennsylvania in those play spaces where the materials are. And they have to identify, my big important thing for everyone is the dispositions or approaches to learning: curiosity, exploration, discovery, being able to repeat things so that they are able to practice and master it, which builds their confidence, increases their self-esteem, et cetera, right? So those learning dispositions, and if anybody wants me to, I can also include a slide of the positive and the negative learning dispositions that are out there, because so many times we have negative dispositions happening in our classroom and we don't know what that means. And so I have a whole slide on here's what the positive dispositions look like and here's what the negative ones are. And especially preschool children, they're developing these dispositions based on their experiences. So I'll include that slide in the stuff that we're doing with the PowerPoint and the recording, and I'll include the disposition slide so that you can see it. It came from a variety of places. Dr. Bruce Perry came from Mary Lou Hyson. There's a whole list of them. And many times when I'm working with principals or I'm working with coaches or I'm working with the special educators, I ask them to observe and make note of the dispositions that children are experiencing in the classroom. And if it's frustration and anxiety and those things, those are the positive ones. And so how can we promote more positive learning dispositions in the classroom? Because maybe they're feeling such anxiety because they're being required to do something, when if we just gave them materials, they might do it without being so anxious. So lots of different things that might be helpful. Any other questions for Whitney? Whitney, this was amazing.
I'm still dazzled. Everybody came on a Tuesday night right after the time change. Like, thanks y'all so much. This is such a treat. And again, it's such a gift to get to share my classroom with y'all. And yeah, let's play together.
Yeah. And so those of you who are interested in IPA-USA, please go to our website. It's really easy to find, IPA-USA.org. There is an amazing array of free resources there for you. And so yes, and the conference will be all play-based. So, and the speaker series is another good place, and how to use loose parts, especially in a classroom, which Whitney showed us a huge array of. So thank you so much for coming, Whitney. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. The whole PowerPoint and the video will be up, and I'll send you the link in 48 hours or so. So have a good night and keep on playing, people.
Thanks, y'all.
Whitney, that was so wonderful.
Oh, thanks, Deb. That was fun. Like all play things. It was fun.